This presentation is about religion in psychology. It's more looking at some religious philosophers and the impact that they had on psychology. Now, a lot of these philosophers we've already seen earlier in the semester. We're going to take a little bit deeper look at them, and we're going to look at some of the concepts and ideas that they had and see how we can apply them to religion in psychology now. The first philosopher we're going to look at is Aristotle. Now, Aristotle lived from 384 to 322 BC, and Aristotle had said that psychology is the study of the soul and its properties. And he also said that the mind is part of the soul. Now, we had learned earlier about dualism and the idea that the mind and the soul are two different things or two different ideas. And Aristotle would say that no, they are one. Another thing Aristotle said was that it's our very nature to desire knowledge and understanding, which is what psychology is. We strive to understand why people do what they do. Another philosopher that we saw earlier in the semester was Peter Abelard. We know him from the romance that he had with Heloise, and when her uncle found out that she was pregnant, he was furious and castrated Abelard. And after that, he decided to be a monk, and asked Heloise to become a nun, and that if they couldn't be together, they would join these religious groups where it's not really accepted to partake in relationships. As we knew earlier that Abelard was a legendary teacher, some of the things he taught was this moral theory of atonement, and that would be the idea that Christ's death paid a debt that man couldn't pay themselves. Along with that, another thing that Abelard was known for was the idea that humans aren't born with original guilt, and that one person couldn't be born with the sin of someone before them. To the right, we see this quote by Abelard: "It is by doubting that we come to investigate, and by investigating that we recognize the truth." And this is a perfect example of psychology, meaning that if we don't understand something, we search and we try and find out what the answer is, and we keep searching until we find out what that answer is, and once we find out that answer, we recognize it to be truth. Another philosopher that we saw earlier was John Locke, and Locke was an empiricist, so we gained our knowledge from experiences that we had. He also had the idea of this blank slate, where that as soon as you're born, with this blank slate idea was the idea that when you're born, you have no knowledge, and that going along with him being an empiricist is that you would gain this knowledge through experiences. One last philosopher that we will look at a little bit is C.S. Lewis. C.S. Lewis has written numerous books regarding morality and right and wrong, and the idea is that the option that we have to choose between right and wrong was given by a higher power, and that only God could have given us this ability to be able to choose between right and wrong. Another book that C.S. Lewis wrote was Argument from Reason, and in this book he challenges, and we know that naturalism is the idea that everything is explained with reference only to the natural world, and that how could being able to decide what is wrong, how could that be given to us by naturalism? Another thing that C.S. Lewis did was brought up the idea, along with other philosophers, that all humans have a moral conscience. And this is a little contradictory with psychologists, because we could encounter individuals that didn't feel like they had a choice when they did something. But C.S. Lewis is saying that everyone has that ability to decide to do something right or to do something wrong, regardless of what they were. In conclusion, as we wrap up, we talked about some of the earlier philosophers, and we got a little more in depth with Aristotle and the ideas of the mind and soul and being one entity, um, and John Locke with the blank slate idea, and that when we're born, we don't have any knowledge, but through experiences, that's how we gain that knowledge. And going with C.S. Lewis on morality and being able to decide what is right and what is wrong, no matter the circumstances, are some of the ideas of how psychology has started and where it is today.